Captain stood at the observation deck of the horizon, staring at the massive structure floating in space. Sanctuary Prime was unlike anything humans had ever built. The station stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its surface covered in gleaming towers and gardens that bloomed under artificial suns. Ships from countless worlds docked at its ports, each one unique and strange. This was humanity's moment. After 200 years of reaching for the stars, they had finally found others. The Galactic Coalition had invited Earth to present its case for membership, felt the weight of billions of people on his shoulders. "Captain, they're ready for us," said the ship's chief scientist. She adjusted her formal uniform and smiled nervously. "How do I look?" "Like someone who's about to make history," replied. They took a shuttle to the Coalition Council chamber. The room was enormous, with seats rising in circles around a central platform. Hundreds of alien beings watched them enter. Some had scales, others had feathers. Some floated in tanks of liquid, while others were made of what looked like living crystal. None of them looked quite human. And walked to the center platform. A voice spoke in their minds, translated by technology beyond human understanding. "Humans of Earth, welcome. We have studied your world and your people. You may present your case." Step forward, she had prepared for this moment for years. "Honored Council, humanity comes before you with open hearts and minds. We have much to offer. Our scientists have unlocked the secrets of our DNA. Our artists create beauty that moves the soul. Our philosophers ask the great questions of existence. We have known war, yes, but we have also known peace. We have suffered, but we have learned compassion. We wish to join you, to learn from you, and to share what we have learned." She showed them images of Earth, mountains touching the sky, oceans stretching to the horizon, cities filled with light and life, music, art, literature, medical breakthroughs, children laughing in parks. The council watched in silence. When finished, she bowed and stepped back. "Thank you," the voice said. "We will now deliberate." The wait felt like forever. Watch the aliens speak to each other in languages he couldn't hear. Some gestured with tentacles, others changed colors. He couldn't read their expressions or guess what they thought. Finally, the voice spoke again. "Humans of Earth, we have reached our decision. Your application for membership in the Galactic Coalition is..." The words hit like a physical blow, but why? A hologram appeared above them, showing Earth spinning in space. Red warnings flashed across the image. "Yours is classified as a Class 12. It is one of the most dangerous planets we have ever studied. The gravity is 3 times our standard. Your atmosphere is filled with reactive oxygen that would poison most species. Your weather systems generate storms that could destroy our strongest structures. Your tectonic plates shift constantly, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Your oceans contain predators of nightmare proportion. Your land hosts millions of species of bacteria, viruses, and parasites." The hologram zoomed in to show Earth's creatures: lions hunting, sharks feeding, bears fighting, snakes striking, spiders waiting in webs. "But that's just nature," protested. "We've learned to live with it, we've adapted." "Yes," the voice replied. "You have adapted, that is precisely the problem." Another image appeared, showing human soldiers in combat, athletes pushing their bodies to the limit, rescue workers running into burning buildings, mountain climbers scaling impossible heights. You are survival-adapted primitives. Your evolution occurred under extreme pressure. You can survive injuries that would kill any of us. You can endure pain that would drive us mad. Your bodies produce adrenaline, a combat drug that makes you stronger and faster when threatened. You form tribal bonds and will die for your group without hesitation. Your history is filled with warfare, conquest, and violence. "We've moved past that," said his voice rising. "We've had global peace for 80 years. We've eliminated poverty and hunger. We've..." 80 years, the voice interrupted. "The Coalition has maintained peace for 10,000 years. Your entire peaceful period is less than a single lifetime for some of our species. We have studied your psychology. You celebrate warriors. Your entertainment glorifies combat. Your children play games of war. Even your sports are formalized combat." "That doesn't make us monsters," said quietly. "No," the voice agreed. "But it makes you dangerous. The Coalition exists because we chose peace over power. We are scholars, artists, builders. We have no weapons of war. We have no armies. We have security forces to maintain order and rescue teams for disasters, but we do not know how to fight. We do not want to know. Your presence would destabilize everything we have built." Felt anger burning in his chest. "So we're too tough for you. We survived too well. We should apologize for not going extinct." "I understand your frustration," the voice said, gentler now. "But consider our perspective. You are asking us to welcome a species that could dominate us through sheer physical superiority. Your baseline strength is greater than our enhanced soldiers. Your endurance surpasses our marathon specialists. Your immune systems fight off diseases that would wipe out entire worlds. And most troubling, your minds are wired for competition and conflict in ways ours are not. We can change, pleaded. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Perhaps in time, but not now. Earth and its colonies must remain quarantined to your own system. You may develop your civilization there. If in several thousand years you have truly evolved beyond your aggressive nature, we will reconsider. Until then, any human vessel that crosses into coalition space will be turned away. This is not punishment. It is protection, for both of us. The chamber went silent, wanted to argue more, but he saw the decision was final. These beings feared humanity, not because humans were evil, but because they were different, too strong, too stubborn, too willing to fight. Come on, he said let's go home. They returned to the horizon in silence. As the ship prepared to depart, a message came through on a private channel. It was text only, untraceable. Captain, I'm human working undercover in coalition security. I've been here for 5 years. They're wrong about us, but they won't change their minds until reality forces them to. Keep Earth ready. Build your ships, train your people. The galaxy is not as peaceful as the Council believes. When the truth comes, when something threatens their perfect peace, they'll have no idea how to fight back. That's when they'll need us. That's when we'll show them what can really do. Stay strong. Out. Read the message twice, then deleted it. He looked at the stars outside his window. Somewhere out there, humanity's future waited. For now, they would return home rejected and alone, but they would be ready. They would always be ready. 6 months had passed since Earth's rejection. Captain and his crew had returned home to mixed reactions. Some humans were angry at the coalition. Others were relieved to be left alone, but life went on. The coalition, meanwhile, continued its peaceful existence, or so everyone thought. Worked as a military analyst at Coalition Defense Headquarters on Sanctuary Prime. Her job was to monitor the outer regions of Coalition space and watch for potential threats. It was usually boring work. Pirates occasionally attacked merchant ships, but security forces handled them easily. Natural disasters happened and rescue teams responded. Nothing serious ever occurred. Then the reports started coming in. The first message came from a mining colony called Outer Light 7. Unknown vessels approaching. They're not responding to hails. They look organic, like living ships. Flagged it as unusual and sent a security patrol to investigate. Standard procedure. The patrol never reported back. 2 days later, Outer Light 7 went silent. All communication stopped. When a rescue team arrived, they found nothing. The entire colony was gone. Buildings remained, but every living thing had vanished. The rescue team's biologists found something strange. The ground was covered in a sticky residue that their sensors couldn't identify. Send the findings to headquarters, the rescue team leader ordered, and let's get out of here. This place feels wrong. Studied the data with growing concern. The residue contained organic compounds that shouldn't exist together. It was like someone had melted down every living thing on the planet and mixed them together. Before she could finish her analysis, 3 more colonies went dark, then 7, then 15. The Coalition Council called an emergency session, presented her findings to the assembled representatives. We're facing an unknown threat. Based on the attack patterns, I believe it's a single coordinated force, not random events. They move fast, hit multiple targets simultaneously, and leave nothing alive behind. A council member who looked like a floating jellyfish spoke in her mind. Surely it's just a natural phenomenon. Space is vast and strange. Perhaps it's a new type of radiation storm or spatial anomaly. With respect, Counselor, the attacks are too organized. They follow shipping lanes and avoid defended positions. This is intelligence at work. Then we will send diplomats, another counselor said, this one covered in soft purple fur. We have never met a species that couldn't be reasoned with. Perhaps they're simply frightened or confused. Wanted to scream. She had reviewed Earth's history files during the human visit. She had seen what happens when peaceful people refuse to acknowledge threats, but she kept her voice calm. I recommend we mobilize the defense fleet and establish a perimeter around the affected sectors. That seems aggressive, the jellyfish counselor said. We don't want to provoke them. The council debated for 3 hours. They formed a committee to study the issue. They drafted a proposal for diplomatic outreach. They scheduled another meeting for next week. By next week, 17 more colonies were gone. Watched in horror as the attacks accelerated. The unknown enemy moved like a swarm, overwhelming defenses through sheer numbers. Security forces that tried to fight back were slaughtered. Their ships were torn apart by what looked like living missiles. Their weapons barely scratched the enemy vessels. Then someone captured clear footage. The enemy was roughly the size of a human shuttle. They had chitinous armor that deflected energy weapons. They moved in swarms of thousands, coordinating perfectly. When one was destroyed, others would consume its remains and seem to grow stronger. They landed on planets and began eating, not just food, but everything. Trees, animals, buildings, metal, even stone. They dissolved it all with corrosive enzymes and absorbed it into their mass. Someone in the analysis department named them the Devourers. The name stuck. Sov was in the path of the swarm. She sent urgent messages to her family, telling them to evacuate. Her father refused. "I've lived here for 200 years, he said through the video link. "I'm not running from bugs. Father, please, these aren't normal insects there. The council will handle it, they always do." But the council couldn't handle it. They sent their largest defense fleet to protect, 300 ships, the pride of coalition security. They carried rescue equipment, fire suppression systems, and crowd control tools. They had stun weapons designed to incapacitate without causing permanent harm. The Devourers tore through them in 4 hours. Watch the battle feeds in real time. The coalition ships tried to disable the Devourers with electromagnetic pulses. The creatures shrugged them off. They tried sonic weapons. The Devourers adapted, growing thicker armor. They tried flooding the area with knockout gas. The Devourers didn't breathe oxygen. When coalition ships rammed the swarm in desperation, the Devourers just consumed the wreckage and grew larger. Fell on a Tuesday. Watched her beautiful get stripped clean. The forests where she had played as a child disappeared. The crystal cities that had stood for crumbled, and her father, stubborn to the end, went silent mid-transmission. She sat in her office, numb. Around her, analysts frantically processed data from dozens of falling worlds. The coalition was dying, and nobody knew how to stop it. That night broke into the restricted files. She pulled up everything the coalition had on Earth and humanity. She read about their wars, their weapons, their tactics. She learned about things called nuclear bombs, biological weapons, chemical warfare. She read about humans who fought in conditions that would kill coalition soldiers instantly, who charged enemy positions knowing they would die, who showed no mercy to threats. It terrified her, but it also gave her hope. She wrote a formal proposal to the Council, request immediate assistance from Earth. Humans possess military knowledge we lack. They have experience fighting without restrictions. They could teach us how to survive. The Council rejected her proposal in 20 minutes. "We will not legitimize barbarism. We will find a civilized solution." Looked at the casualty reports. 73 worlds lost, 12 billion dead. The Devourers were accelerating, moving deeper into coalition space. At this rate, they would reach the core worlds within months. She made a decision that would either save the coalition or end her career. She stole a fast courier ship from the diplomatic fleet. She loaded it with all the data she had on the Devourers. She plotted a course to Earth system, knowing she would be branded a traitor. As she activated the faster-than-light drive, her console lit up with incoming messages, orders to stop, threats of arrest, pleas from colleagues. She ignored them all. The coalition had turned away from Earth out of fear. Now that same fear was killing them. Maybe the humans they rejected would be better people than the Council had been. Maybe they would help anyway. She had to believe that, because if she was wrong, if humans were as dangerous and selfish as the Council feared, then the galaxy was doomed anyway. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving coalition space behind, set the autopilot for Earth and allowed herself to cry for the first time since fell. She cried for her father, for her world, for all the peaceful people who never learned how to fight. And she prayed that they would be kinder than expected. The journey to Earth would take 3 days. Behind her, the Devourers consumed another world. The galaxy was running out of time. Stolen ship limped into Earth system with failing engines and a hull by cosmic debris. She had pushed the vessel beyond its limits to get here fast. Now she broadcast a distress signal and hoped the humans would listen before shooting her down. Within minutes, 3 Earth defense ships surrounded her. Their designs were brutal and efficient, all angles and armor with weapons pointing outward like the spines of some predator, nothing like the elegant curves of coalition vessels. "Unknown ship, this is Earth Defense Patrol. Identify yourself immediately." His voice shook as she responded. I'm from the Galactic Coalition. I need to speak with your leaders, it's urgent. The galaxy is dying." There was a long pause, then, "Stand by for escort to Sol Station." They brought her to a massive military complex in orbit above Earth. As stepped off her ship, she saw humans for the first time in person. They were shorter than she expected but moved with a controlled power that made her nervous. Their eyes tracked everything, alert and watchful. 2 officers met her in the docking bay. The woman wore a uniform marked with 4 stars and had gray hair pulled back severely. The man was younger, built like a soldier, with sharp eyes that seemed to look through. I'm Admiral Sora, the woman said. This is General Minu. You said the galaxy is dying, explain. Told them everything. The Devourers, the fallen worlds, the Council's refusal to fight properly, her stolen ship, her desperate gamble that humans might help. When she finished, Sora and Minu exchanged a look. Show us the tactical data, Minu said. Pulled up holographic displays showing Devourer attack patterns, their biology, their adaptation abilities. Minu studied it silently, his face unreadable. Sora made notes on a tablet. Their armor adapts to energy weapons, Minu said, but I don't see any tests with kinetic rounds. Did anyone try just shooting them with bullets? Blinked bullets, that's primitive. Our energy weapons are far more efficient. Efficient isn't the same as effective, Sora said dryly. What about explosives, fire, chemical weapons? We don't use such things. They cause unnecessary suffering. Minu laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Suffering, right, how many died on? 800 million, whispered. And you worried about the bugs suffering? Minu shook his head. No wonder you're losing. Felt anger flash through her grief. We're not warriors. We're scientists, artists, builders. We created a civilization based on peace and cooperation. What have humans created? You were rejected because you're violent. Sora stepped between them, her voice calm but firm. We were rejected because we scare you. And you know what? We should scare you. Do you know what it takes to survive on Earth? We evolved alongside creatures that could tear us apart. We fought ice ages, plagues, predators, and each other. We built civilization not despite our violence, but because of it. We learned to channel aggression into protection, to turn fighting instinct into military doctrine. You call Eartha, we call it home. Everything that scares you about us is exactly why we survive. She pulled up images on the wall screen. Human history, ancient warriors with spears, medieval knights in armor, modern soldiers with rifles, ships bristling with weapons, missiles streaking through the sky. This is what we are, Sora continued. We know war. We understand tactics, strategy, sacrifice. We've studied every form of combat imaginable, and we've been preparing. Preparing for what? Asked. For the day someone would need us, Minu said. He brought up new images. Shipyards in orbit around Earth and Mars, constructing massive vessels, training facilities where soldiers practiced in hostile environments, weapons testing ranges on airless moons. 6 months ago, your council rejected us, Minu explained. Told us we were too dangerous for civilized company, so we figured if we couldn't join the peaceful galaxy, we'd better be ready to protect ourselves. We've been building a defense fleet, training troops, developing weapons, just in case. We don't want to conquer anyone, Sora added, but we won't be helpless either. Looked at the displays showing Earth's military might. Ships that looked like they were designed to ram through asteroids. Soldiers training with weapons she couldn't even identify. It was everything the Council feared about humanity, all laid out in cold metal and determination. And it was exactly what they needed. Will you help us? She asked quietly. Sora and Minu looked at each other again. Some unspoken communication passed between them. The Council rejected us, Minu said, called us primitive and dangerous. Now they want our help. I'm not the Council, said. I'm just someone who watched her world die. My father died. Billions of people died. More are dying right now while we talk. The Council is full of fools, yes. But the people, the civilians, the children, they don't deserve to be punished for the Council's mistakes. Sora nodded slowly. No, they don't. She tapped her tablet. We'll help, not for the Council, not for membership or recognition. We'll help because people are dying and we can stop it. But understand this, Minu added, his voice hard. If we do this, we do it our way. No restrictions on weapons. No debates about proportional response. No committee second-guessing tactical decisions. We fight to win, and winning means the enemy doesn't get back up. Hesitated. Everything he described went against coalition principles, but she remembered being stripped bare. She remembered the desperate messages from other dying worlds. Agreed, she said. Within hours, Earth mobilized. Captain was called back to service and given command of the 1st Expeditionary Fleet. 50 warships, each carrying weapons designed for one purpose, destroying threats completely. Met in the flagship's hangar bay. He looked different than during their first meeting at Sanctuary Prime. Harder, more focused. I remember you, said. You were on the Council's security staff. I quit when they refused to fight properly. Smart, he gestured to the ships around them. Welcome to the Horizon. She's been upgraded since last time. Want a tour? He showed her the weapon systems that could punch through armor at incredible speeds. Missile tubes loaded with fusion warheads. Point defense systems designed to intercept thousands of targets. And something called the Iron Rain Protocol. What's that? He asked. The chief engineer, a woman named, grinned. You'll see. But basically, we drop very heavy things from very high up very fast. Physics does the rest. They also showed her the Marine barracks, where soldiers trained in boarding actions and ground combat. These humans practiced fighting in zero gravity, toxic atmospheres, and extreme temperatures. They drilled with weapons that looked brutal and efficient. Your people are comfortable with violence, observed. We're comfortable with survival, corrected. There's a difference. We don't enjoy killing, but when something threatens innocent people, we don't hesitate either. As the fleet prepared to depart, stood with Sara on the command deck. Earth hung below them, beautiful and deadly in equal measure. Admiral, thank you for this. I know your people have no reason to help us. Sara looked at her with something like sympathy. We have the best reason, because it's the right thing to do. Your council judged us without understanding us. They feared our strength but never considered why we're strong. We're strong because we protect. We fight because we care. We're violent because the universe is violent and someone needs to stand between the innocent and the darkness. The fleet departed Earth system with 30,000 volunteers, soldiers who knew they might not return, engineers who would keep the ships running under fire, medical staff ready to handle casualties that would horrify coalition doctors. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward the war zone, Minu's final words echoed through the fleet. Remember why we're here. The galaxy turned away from us, said we were too dangerous, too violent, too much like. Today we show them what really are. We're not monsters, we're protectors. Now let's go save some people. The fleet vanished into the stars, carrying humanity's answer to the galaxy's crisis. They would arrive in 3 days. The Devourers would learn what Earth had taught its children. Mercy is not weakness, kindness is not softness, and peaceful people can be the most dangerous when fighting for something they love. The system was dying when the human fleet arrived. Coalition ships tried desperately to hold back a swarm of millions of Devourer bioships. The aliens' elegant vessels were designed for beauty and efficiency, not war. They were being torn apart. On the flagship horizon, Captain watched the tactical display with cold focus. Red dots representing Devourers outnumbered blue coalition ships 20-1. This was going to be brutal. All ships' battle stations ordered. Prepare Iron Rain protocol. Weapons load kinetic rounds. Marines stand by for boarding actions. Stood beside him on the command deck, her hands gripping the railing. She had never seen a human military operation before. The efficiency frightened her. No debates, no committees, just clear orders and instant obedience. The coalition commander, a human woman named who had defected to the coalition years ago, appeared on screen. She looked exhausted. Is that really you? Hello, been a while. You actually came. I didn't think Earth would help after the rejection. We're not here for the council, said. We're here for the people. What's your situation? Bad and getting worse. We've been holding this position for 2 days, lost 40 ships. The Devourers adapt to everything we throw at them. Energy weapons don't work anymore. They've grown armor that deflects or absorbs the beams. Good thing we brought old-fashioned solutions. Get your ships clear of the swarm. We're about to do something you won't like. What do you mean? Just trust me and pull back, now. Hesitated, then gave the order. Coalition ships retreated behind the human fleet. The Devourers, sensing weakness, surged forward. Millions of chittering, screeching creatures in living ships that pulsed with disgusting organic movement. Execute Iron Rain, said calmly. Engineer's fingers flew across her console. Iron Rain in 3, 2, 1 launch. The human ships fired thousands of projectiles. They weren't missiles or energy blasts. They were simple tungsten rods, each one a meter long and incredibly dense. The ships accelerated them to a significant fraction of light speed. Watched in horror and awe as the rods tore through the Devourer swarm. At those speeds, they didn't need explosives. Pure kinetic energy did the work. Each rod that hit a bioship vaporized it instantly. The heat from the impact created expanding spheres of superheated gas that destroyed nearby creatures. The Iron Rain continued for 30 seconds. When it stopped, nearly a quarter of the Devourer swarm was gone. Physics is wonderful, said with satisfaction. You can adapt to energy weapons. You can't adapt to being hit by a small moon traveling at relativistic speeds. But the Devourers were not defeated. The survivors regrouped and charged the human fleet with renewed fury. They moved fast, weaving and dodging, learning from their losses. Switch to conventional, ordered. Target clusters, fire at will. The human ships open up with slower but still devastating kinetic weapons. Solid slugs punch through Devourer armor like paper. The aliens tried to swarm individual ships, but the humans had prepared for that too. Point defense systems created walls of metal that shredded anything that got close. Still, some Devourers broke through. They latched onto coalition ships, tearing through hulls with razor-sharp limbs. Ships tried to shake them off, but the creatures held on like parasites. "They're breaching our hulls," reported. "We're venting atmosphere. Crew is evacuating sections." "Marines, you're up," said. Colonel led the assault teams. His Marines wore powered armor that made them look like mechanical monsters. They jumped from their ships using maneuvering thrusters, flying through space toward the infested coalition vessels. Watch the external cameras as Marines landed on coalition ship hulls and cut their way inside. The Devourers had already killed most of the crew in the breach sections. The insects swarmed the Marines the moment they entered. What happened next made stomach turn. The Marines fought with brutal efficiency. Their armor allowed them to rip Devourers apart with their bare hands. They carried weapons that sprayed fire, shot explosive rounds, and released clouds of toxic gas. In the confined spaces of the ship corridors, the humans were unstoppable. "Target the neural centers," his voice came through the comm. "According to the intel, the bioships have a brain structure near the center. We plant antimatter charges there, the whole ship dies." Grab's arm. "Antimatter, that's forbidden by 7 different coalition laws." "Good thing we're not in the coalition," replied without looking away from his displays. The Marines fought their way deeper into the infested ships. Watched a helmet camera feed as team encountered a massive devourer, twice the size of a human. It charged with mandibles that could bite through steel. Didn't retreat. He planted his feet and fired a weapon directly into the creature's mouth. The explosion was contained inside the devourer's body, turning it into a shower of organic matter. "Keep moving," ordered his team. "We're on a clock." They reached the neural centers and planted their charges. Then they ran, not out of fear, but because the explosions would destroy the ships. They jumped back into space just before the antimatter detonated. The bioships died, their neural systems destroyed. The remaining devourers on board went into a frenzy, attacking each other in confusion. But the main swarm adapted again. They changed tactics, spreading out to avoid the fire. They released clouds of spores that disrupted sensors. They sprayed acid that ate through ship hulls. "They're learning too fast," warned. "This is what happened to all our fleets. They adapt faster than we can adjust." "Then we changed the game," said. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, chemical weapons protocol, release Compound 7. The human ships vented gases into space. The Devourers, expecting attack, tried to avoid the clouds, but the gas was designed to linger, spreading through the battlefield. Checked the compound's composition on her tablet. Her eyes went wide. "This is a nerve agent. It's designed to attack organic nervous systems." "Yes," said simply. "But it's inhumane. It causes paralysis and suffocation." "It's effective, watch." The Devourers that flew through the gas clouds began twitching. Their coordination broke down. They crashed into each other or drifted helplessly in space. Human ships picked them off one by one. But then something unexpected happened. The Devourers released their own counteragent, a gas that neutralized the human nerve toxin. They also deployed clouds of paralytic spores that had worked on every coalition species. The spores hit the human ships. Alarms blared. On the coalition vessels, any crew caught in the spore clouds collapsed instantly, unable to move or breathe. On the human ships, the crew kept working. "Why aren't they affected?" demanded. Pulled up biological data. Earth's atmosphere is 21% oxygen, which is toxic to most species. We evolved to breathe what you call poison. Our respiratory systems filter out all kinds of nasty stuff. These spores are designed for species with simpler biology. We just breathe them in and exhale them out. They're annoying, but not deadly. The Devourers seemed confused. Their ultimate weapon had failed. The human ships pressed forward, pouring fire into the disorganized swarm. But victory came at a cost. Several human ships took heavy damage. The medical bays filled with wounded. Some Marines didn't make it back from their boarding actions. 3,000 casualties. 2 ships lost completely, their crews dying as heroes. Still, the battle turned. The Devourers, faced with an enemy they couldn't easily adapt to, began to retreat. The swarm broke apart, fleeing into deep space. His voice came through, filled with exhausted relief. "They're running, you did it. You actually did it." Didn't celebrate. He looked at the casualty report scrolling across his screen. 3,000 families would receive terrible news. 3,000 empty beds. 3,000 people who volunteered to save strangers and paid the ultimate price. "Get rescue teams to the damaged ships," he ordered. "Medical teams to all vessels. And someone find me a way to track that swarm. They'll regroup and attack somewhere else." Stared at him. "How can you be so calm? You just won a major victory." "We survived a battle," corrected. "The war is just starting. and every second we waste, the Devourers are killing more people somewhere else. Requested permission to come aboard the Horizon. When she arrived, she looked different than remembered, less idealistic, more worn down. Met her in the hangar. They stood facing each other, two humans who had made different choices. You left Earth because you thought we were too violent, said. What do you think now? Looked around at the battle-scarred Marines removing their armor, at the weapons being reloaded, at the efficiency of controlled violence. I think I was wrong, she said quietly. I thought violence was always evil, that any society that embraced combat was barbaric. But watching my adopted people die because they refused to fight back properly, I finally understood. You're not violent because you enjoy it. You're violent because the universe is violent and somebody has to be strong enough to protect the weak. Took you long enough to figure that out, said, but he smiled. Watched them and understood something fundamental. Humans weren't monsters or heroes. They were survivors who had learned that sometimes survival meant fighting, that protecting others required strength, that peace was worth defending with force. The galaxy had rejected them for being. Now those same were its best hope for survival. 6 months after the battle of the war had changed. The Devourers still attacked coalition worlds, but now they faced real resistance. Human military advisors taught coalition forces how to fight properly. Weapons factories on peaceful worlds produced kinetic weapons for the first time in 10,000 years. Species that had never known war learned tactics, strategy, and the hard truth that sometimes violence is necessary. Captain and now co-led a joint task force. Human aggression balanced with coalition compassion. Military efficiency combined with diplomatic wisdom. It was an imperfect partnership, but it worked. They stood in a command center on Sanctuary Prime studying reports from across the galaxy. The news was mixed. They had stopped the Devourer advance, even pushed them back from several systems. But the cost was terrible. Millions dead, dozens of worlds damaged or destroyed, and the Devourers showed no signs of stopping. We're winning battles but not the war, said, frustration in her voice. Every time we destroy part of the swarm, the survivors regroup somewhere else. It's like fighting smoke. Admiral Sara, who had arrived from Earth with reinforcements, studied the data. We need to understand them better. Why are they doing this? What do they want? General Minu pulled up biological analysis. Our scientists have been studying captured specimens. The Devourers aren't just mindless insects. They're desperate. He showed them scans of Devourer tissue. Their DNA shows signs of extreme radiation damage. And look at this, their metabolism is incredibly inefficient. They need to consume massive amounts of organic matter just to survive. They're literally starving all the time. Felt a chill. What could make a species evolve like that? My people found this. Minu displayed astronomical data showing a dying star in unexplored space. We tracked the Devourer's original flight path back to this system. The star went supernova about 500 years ago. We think they fled there as it was being destroyed by radiation. They evolved into their current form as a survival mechanism. Consume everything, adapt to anything, spread across space looking for resources. They're refugees, whispered. We've been fighting refugees. Refugees who eat entire civilizations, reminded her. I feel bad for their situation, but that doesn't mean we can let them kill billions of innocents. But maybe we don't have to kill them either, said, an idea forming. What if we could redirect them? Admiral Sara leaned forward. Explain. Pulled up a star map. There's a nebula here in unclaimed space. The nebula. It's full of organic compounds, hydrogen, carbon, everything the Devourers need. No inhabited worlds. If we could somehow drive the swarm toward it, they could feed without destroying civilizations. That's insane, Minu said. We're talking about herding millions of hostile creatures across light years of space. Do you have a better idea? Challenged. We can't hunt them all down, they reproduce too fast, and I'm tired of killing, aren't you? Looked at the nebula data. It could work, but we'd need to create a corridor, forcing them to move in one direction, and we'd need to make the nebula more attractive than inhabited worlds. Bait, Sora said. We seed the approach to the nebula with organic material, make a trail they can't resist following. Over the next month, they planned Operation Last Migration. It was the most ambitious military operation in Coalition history. Every available ship would participate. They would create a massive coordinated attack that would herd the Devourers like shepherds driving animals toward pasture. But it was dangerous. The plan required human ships to take the most exposed positions, drawing Devourer attacks while other vessels closed off escape routes. Casualties would be high. The night before the operation, found standing on an observation deck, looking at the stars. Can't sleep, he asked. I keep thinking about my father. He died consumed by the swarm. Now we're trying to save them. Would he understand? I don't know, said honestly, but I think he'd be proud that you're trying to find a solution that doesn't require genocide. Your people have taught us so much about fighting. Maybe we can teach you something about mercy. We know mercy, said quietly. That's why we're here. We could have stayed home, safe in our own system. We chose to fight for you instead. That's mercy. It's just not the kind your council understands. The operation launched at dawn, Coalition Standard Time. 500 human ships and 2,000 Coalition vessels formed a massive net across space. They began attacking Devourer positions, not trying to destroy them, but to drive them in a specific direction. Commanded from the horizon, leading the frontal assault, his ship took the most dangerous position, directly in the Devourer's path. The creatures threw themselves at his fleet with suicidal fury. Hold the line, ordered as impacts rocked his ship. Don't let any break through. In engineering, worked frantically to keep the ship running as systems failed around her. Power conduits exploded. Hull breaches vented atmosphere. The ship screamed under the strain. Captain, we're losing structural integrity, reported. If we take many more hits, we're done. Just hold it together a little longer, said, his voice calm despite the chaos. We're almost there. The Devourers sensed the organic trail leading to the nebula. Their feeding instinct overwhelmed their tactical awareness. They began moving toward the concentrated food source, following the path humanity had laid. But then disaster struck. A Devourer kamikaze attack punched through the horizon's shields and tore open the engineering section, and her entire team were caught in the blast. Engineering report called, respond. Silence, then a weak voice. Captain, most of my team is gone. I'm badly hurt, but I can keep the engines running long enough to finish the mission. Abandon that section. Get to the escape pods. No can do, sir. Someone needs to manually regulate the power flow or the ship goes dead. And if the horizon stops here, the Devourers break through and the whole operation fails. Felt ice in his chest. That's an order. Sorry, Captain, can't hear you. Communications must be damaged. There was humor in her voice even now. It's been an honor serving with you. Now let me do my job. The line went silent. Hands gripped his command chair so hard his knuckles turned white. Around him, the bridge crew worked with tears running down their faces, but they didn't stop. That was the human way. Grieve later, work now. The horizon held its position. Behind the human fleet, Coalition ships closed the trap, sealing off every escape route except the path to the nebula. The Devourers had no choice. They fled toward the only food source available. The operation took 6 hours. When it was over, 95% of the Devourer swarm had been successfully redirected into the nebula. Casualties were heavy. 12 human ships lost. Thousands dead, including and her brave engineering team. But it was done. The Devourers would have enough food in the nebula to last them thousands of years. Long enough, hopefully, to evolve beyond their desperate hunger, to become something other than a consuming swarm. The Coalition Council called an emergency session. This time, Earth was invited, not as applicants but as honored guests. Stood before the council, his arm in a sling from injuries sustained during the battle. Stood beside him, now officially Earth's ambassador to the Coalition. Humans of Earth, the council voice said, 6 months ago we rejected your application for membership. We called you dangerous and violent. We feared your nature. We were wrong. Images played across the chamber walls. Human ships fighting the Devourers, Marines rescuing Coalition civilians, engineers working themselves to death to save others, leading from the front, never asking his people to do anything he wouldn't do himself. You fought like demons to protect those who called you monsters, the voice continued. You showed us that strength without compassion is tyranny, but compassion without strength is helpless. You embody both. You are warriors, yes, but you are also healers, teachers, and friends. The vote was unanimous. Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Coalition. But didn't smile. He looked at the council members, at the beings who had judged humanity so harshly. We accept your membership, he said. But understand this, we didn't fight for you. We fought for the innocent people dying while you debated. We didn't save the galaxy for recognition or status. We did it because it was right. Don't ever forget that. The council members shifted uncomfortably, but they nodded. The message was received. In the months that followed, everything changed. Coalition species began sending their students to Earth's military academies, not to learn how to conquer, but to learn how to protect. Human instructors taught them that violence was a tool, neither good nor evil in itself. What mattered was how you used it and why. Opened the first joint Human Coalition Training Center on Mars. She taught a course called Ethics of Necessary Force. Her students came from hundreds of worlds, learning that peace required vigilance and strength. recovered from his injuries and accepted a new position, Admiral of the Coalition Defense Fleet. His first order was to establish memorial gardens on Earth for every Coalition civilian who died in the war, and on Coalition worlds for every human who gave their life protecting others. Worked tirelessly as ambassador, building bridges between species. She created exchange programs where Coalition children spent time on Earth, learning to appreciate the beauty of and the strength of its people. 1 year after the war ended, visited Earth's military academy. He watched young soldiers training, preparing to protect a galaxy that once feared them. Sora found him there, looking pensive. Having second thoughts, she asked. No, just remembering, thinking about and everyone else we lost, wondering if they'd be proud of what we've built. They saved the galaxy, Sora said. I think they'd be satisfied with that. We're not monsters or heroes, said quietly. We're just humans. We fight when we have to, we protect when we can, we make mistakes but we try to do better. Is that enough? Watched a group of Coalition children playing soccer with human kids on the Academy's field. They laughed together, different species finding common joy in a simple game. Yeah, he said, I think maybe it is. Far away in the nebula, the Devourers fed and grew and slowly, gradually, began to change. With abundant food and no need to fight, their evolution took a new path. Scientists predicted that in a few thousand years, they might become something entirely different. Not a consuming swarm, but perhaps builders in their own right. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Strength was not evil, violence was not always wrong, and the beings you feared most might become your greatest protectors if you gave them a chance. Had arrived, and the galaxy was better for it.